welcome back to the Football Out West show. And Steve, let's take a look at the NPL2 Victoria competition. Let's go through the results firstly as we pop the ladder up.
Absolutely. So there is the ladder on the screen, but we'll get to those results. We've still got one game to be played, which is coming up tomorrow night, Bulleen Lions and Kingston City at the Ven, those two traditional Monday night teams. So Friday night, there was a whole host of games. I was on hand to see Preston Lions 0, Manningham United Blues 0 in another very wind-affected game up at BT Connor Reserve. There was a win on the road for Western United at Dandenong City 2-0, so very handy result for the young boys from the West. Melbourne City, we'll talk more about this, but 4-2 winners against Pascoe Vale, really good result for them. Werribee City, I think Craig was all smiles on Friday night, 2-1 over Northcote City. Also on Friday, Lang Warren, another high scorer, 4-2 against Brunswick City. And it was honours even at Gardners Creek Reserve between Eastern Lions and Brunswick Juventus yesterday in the Saturday afternoon fixture. 0-0, as we said, Bulleen Lions and Kingston City still to come tomorrow night at 8:15.
Yeah. So Kingston City obviously have a chance to jump right to the top of the competition. Everyone just keeps on leapfrogging each other in this competition, I tell you what. Preston Lions in recent weeks have dropped points, and that could prove costly to them. Western United seem to be moving up and down, up and down. But tonight we're going to talk to the 8th-placed Melbourne City coach, and he's going to be joining us now live. It's a big, big welcome to KRSTEVSKI. Hello, Christian. And is it Christian or Christian? How do we pronounce that name?
Thanks for having me, gents. It's CRISDEON.
CRISDEON.
So, but Christian's okay if it's easier. It's okay. It's a tongue twister, which is always fun when you're coming up against someone like Craig when you go down to Werribee and play a game. But Dom keeps him in line, I hear. So that's always.
That's the way. Hey,
mate, he's got his work cut out there, I think, though.
Yeah.
Mate, I've got a name that's an absolute conversation starter. Like a name like Tonchi. I'll go to the shops or something like that, and as soon as they say, "What's your name?" blah blah blah, it opens up a whole host of things, and you start saying, "What nationality is that?" That's Croatia. And then straight away we start talking football, and it doesn't matter who it is or what it is, but yeah. It's great how football becomes that international language, and usually because of your name. But speaking
always the extrovert, you mate.
Yeah. Speaking of football, the competition of chaos, mate. NPL2 on any given day, anyone can win. Tell us your own experiences, or how have you seen this year's competition?
Oh yeah, I think you guys have put it nicely in the last few weeks. I tune in every now and then. You hear you guys always talking about it as a chaos league, and I think that's the perfect word to describe it. But I mean, what a league to be a part of as well. It's fantastic that you go to a game every week and you really don't know what sort of result people are going to get, and keeps it really interesting. And definitely for our group, it's absolutely fantastic to know that. They can play against anyone and have a really good game that they get out of it, which is fantastic. And you see the likes of, you guys mentioned already, there's the Monday night classic in the Bulleen and Kingston game. And that can change the ladder altogether again, which will be, take everyone into a whirlwind, which is interesting. But it just seems like no one can get a real stronghold on it either at the top other end of the table too. So makes it exciting for us, but also equally as challenging, which is good.
Now, Christian, your role at Melbourne City, every time we look at those national teams, whether it be the Socceroos, the Olyroos, the other junior national teams, we're always talking about this player's come through the Melbourne City Academy, this player, player X amount of players have done. A really important role that you hold there. Tell us a bit about your journey to get into this role, and how long you've been around at Melbourne City, and how much you enjoy being there.
Yeah, I guess I come into the club quite a number of years ago now, and I actually came through the schools program they were running. I was working with Joe Palasides at the time, who was working in my role, or as the 23s coach at that moment, and the technical director at one of the schools that they were a partner with. And I got the opportunity to come into the academy and assist Peter Kratke, who's now one of the first team assistant coaches, and I got to assist him with the 21s probably five or 6 years ago, which then eventually got me into a position where I could take the 21s, which was only last season, and then the club put the trust in me to take over the 23s role with John Mazzano going into the first team as an assistant. And got to see a real good group or a good cohort of players come through in that time as well. And you guys spoke about the likes of Geordie Boss. It's our group chats between all our coaches and staff was going absolutely berserk on the other night when they were playing against Argentina. It's crazy to see a player in and around the change room with all our young boys who's just come up against Messi and shown his class and done a great job. And it's amazing. Like it's really cool.
Let's getting back to the NPL competition. Obviously, Melbourne City is probably a little bit different to some of the other clubs being an academy league, and obviously your role there is to nurture some of the young talent, to develop them, those that are ready to step up, etc. Whereas the rest of the league, I guess, and this is a long-winded question, I'm renowned for that. The rest of the league really wants those results. They want promotion. They want to get to the NPL. We've got the Prestons, you've got the Dandenongs, you've got some of these other clubs, Kingston Cities as well. They all want to get there, Brunswick, Juventus. How much of a balance is there between that development and nurturing talent for the long term and that, yearning for immediate results where, clubs, sponsors, everyone wants, in Melbourne City to get into the NPL as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I think I think someone made a comment on the show a couple of weeks ago, maybe. I don't know if it was yourself, Steve. You were talking about that we're quite
intelligent one. He probably was.
We're quite happy being in NPL2, and it's a really good level for us. I know Victory were in the NPL1 a few years back and seemed to struggle with that. The benefit, I suppose, to answer your question, Tonchi, if I've understood it correctly, is you're able to obviously nurture some younger bodies in an NPL2 environment without sort of putting them too much at risk of being exposed to your likes of your Avondales in NPL1. And they're still able to compete as long as you keep a good group of players together for a longer period of time. And one of the goals we had was to make sure we retained as much of our list from last season into this season to give them that opportunity going into a higher league. Obviously, we come from NPL3 last year. So, there's a couple of boys in there that are closer to that 20, 21 years old, which is unusual for us. We normally have a younger list. But it's also allowed us to play some younger players in the likes of like the striker that we've been playing at the moment. His name's Medine, and he's only 15 years old. He scored 4 goals in I think 5 or 6 games, which is really impressive. And then you've still got 5 or 6 players that have come through in the last sort of 12 months that played regularly 21s last year, but didn't get that opportunity yet. So for us, the league we're in is absolutely perfect because we're able to blood those younger players in without exposing them to, I guess, that really big leap that you would probably find in one.
No, you answered it beautifully.
Yeah. So I guess the short answer is yes, we're happy to be in NPL2, and yes, we want to win games because that's important for their development to learn to win. But they obviously learn a lot from games where they don't win as well. They get exposed in different ways and different challenges they haven't been potentially in their earlier development.
Yeah, I guess it's their responsible development. You talk about, like, you don't want to lose sight of the fact that it is a competitive environment, but at the same time, and you summed something up you just now where they learn from losses, and that's so important for young players. And I've spoken to a lot of coaches who say you don't win, you don't learn from thumping, particularly say in sub juniors where they might be thumping them 10-0 every game or whatever. You don't learn from that, but you get a game where you might lose a game and you learn so much more from that particular experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think in reflection of the season so far, we've had some games where we've been hurt right at the end, and something we spoke to our playing group about recently was, we got over the line against Eastern Lions quite late. I think Ben Mazzio scored in the 90-something minute. We scored quite late again this week against Paco. We come from behind twice. So that you can already see that they've started to, I guess, learn to manage games as well, which is obviously something that, a senior coach in, say, someone like Lou at Preston, that's a really desirable trait in a player. He wants a player to be able to manage out a game. But of course, the likes of Rado needs a player that understands that a win's really important as well. So to get them ready for that next step, the exposure they've had in this environment's absolutely fantastic and pretty much second to none at the moment for them, which is really good.
And I wanted to ask CRISDEON about one of the, young attacking players that have come through the pathway. We seem to have a bit of an issue. I know, there's probably an example. Noah Bodic is going well at the moment in under 23s, but Max Caputo scoring in the under 18s against Norway this week. He's only 17 years of age. He's a big lad. Had still growing. How can you see his career trajectory going?
Oh, I think there's only one way up for Maxi, and he's had a really good year. He was in the grand final squad as well. That he didn't get a run, but he was on the list, which I think's an amazing feat at his age. He's the club's youngest goal scorer, I think, at an A-League level, which is phenomenal. He scored a bag of goals in NPL over the last 3 years, not just one, which is crazy to say about someone that's 17 years of age. So, I see his pathway, he's got a massive ceiling, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him progress, I guess, into that next environment, which is the first team. And it'd be nice once he comes back from his leave period, if we can sneak a few games into him in the NPL in the back end. That'd be almost like a transfer for us.
Yeah.
Even he hasn't had many at this stage. So, yeah, I think he'll do really well.
CRISDEON, we've gone past the halfway stage of the season. If we take a look at the ladder again, obviously you've played everyone at least once, and some of the teams you've played twice. Who, in your mind, are the front runners for those top two promotion spots to NPL Victoria at the moment? Is it Preston Lions and Western United as the ladder stands, or is there someone that's lurking in the shadows that you think is going to really give things a good shake?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny the way you asked that, because I just glancing my eyes over the ladder, and I don't see anyone there where I go, "Oh, we played against them, and that was an easy game or an easy week to prepare." I guess the obvious one is your likes of Preston. They've obviously had the sort of best run of games so far. Kingston seemed to be a dark horse. They're always floating around that sort of top 4 or 5. I guess the one we've spoken about a lot as a staff is Dandenong City. Tolsey's done a really good job down there, and they seem to be really strong. They probably haven't had a string of results properly for last few weeks, but they're probably, for me, my pick that would maybe be that dark horse other than Preston. Sort of silent giant in there as well. And I guess that we like to support the guys that are in the southeast with us now as well, which is nice.
True. Now 3 wins in the last 5 for you, CRISDEON. Things seem to be looking up. Have you got what kind of squad have you got at the moment? Given that the team seems to fluctuate, whether it's A-League season and off season, it seems like you have the players that are sort of keeping those match minutes that aren't playing in the seniors. Then they go away and have a spell for a little while at the end of the season. What's the makeup of your team at the moment, based on youngsters, players that have maybe had A-League minutes or otherwise?
Yeah, I guess like you mentioned, it fluctuates pretty much week in, week out. I think one of the conversations I've had with a few other coaches actually in the league now is that we seem to be the most unpredictable with our lineup going into a week, because it seems to change every week. I think in 18 rounds we've only held the same 11 once, going round to round. At this stage, there's a few boys that are on leave. So you got your likes of your Max Caputo and Emmons that have just been on national team duty, so they're away. And last week we also had out, or last 2 weeks we had out Harry Shillington and Seb Esposito, who were also with the national team. So I guess the majority of the squad now sits between our mostly made up of our under 21s. Which is fantastic to see that they're able to match the likes of a Pascoe Vale. in a really competitive game, and that's really exciting because you got young players coming through. And you got the likes of Medine Mehmeti, who's played, I think, 3 or 4 senior games now in a row as a 9. And he's actually on our under-18s roster. He hasn't even quite scratched the surface to even our
I
under-21.
love hearing stories about like that. That is absolutely fantastic. And I guess that's what the purpose of these lower leagues is, to give some of those younger kids a go. And look, if they're going to make it at 15, 16, 17, they need to be playing senior football, and it's great to see that. Big game this weekend up against Preston Lions at the Veneto Club. This is on Friday night. Preston are very, very renowned for playing. They play their games most Friday nights, as Steve knows. Tough game. What are you expecting from the Lions?
Oh, I think it's always a tough game, Tonji. I don't think you ever get an easy game against Preston.
No.
Steve could probably testify for that more than us. But it's a really exciting, I think, point in our calendar for the whole club. We always look forward to playing against Preston. For the boys, it's probably the biggest crowd they have ever played in front of up at this point in their early careers. Even for myself and the staff, it's always exciting. We know there's going to be a few thousand people there that come down, which is part of the reason the club move the game to the Ven, which is great to accommodate for that. So hopefully Preston come down in numbers as well, because they like playing in front of a crowd. I guess for us, we just prepare like any other game. We follow our processes, try and put our best foot forwards, and I know Preston will give us a hell of a game as we go out there.
Absolutely, they will. And a couple of injuries they suffered as well. And I hear they're looking to dip into the transfer market. So who knows what names be on their team sheet either this Friday night either, CRISDEON. So it could be a tough and bruising encounter on the synthetic pitch there at the Ven. But just quickly as well, how do the players those young players enjoy coming up against those more hardened senior players?
Yeah, I think they actually thrive on those in those moments. They seem to be really excited by the challenge. Sometimes, I guess, when they play in a 21s competition, it's not as challenging for them, and that's sort of that gap as they progress. And then they get to come up against a Preston where they've got some sort of fully fledged senior players that are doing really well. And they seem to thrive in those moments. Obviously, some of them come away missing a week or 2 afterwards because their bodies aren't quite there yet. But they definitely thrive off that more competitive environment and stronger bodies and that challenge, which is really good to see.
Brilliant. On that note, we wish you all the very best for Friday night's game, but also for the rest of the season. And it's an absolute pleasure having you on the Football Out West show. Hopefully we'll even get you on before the end of the season. But we're going to be watching the competition of chaos very, very closely over the coming weeks and months.
Thanks, gents. Thanks very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, CRISDEON. All the very best.
KRSTEVSKI from Melbourne City. We're going to take a very short jingle break. That's what they call it, a jingle break. We're in about 15 to 20 seconds. We'll be back with our very next guest, a very patient Eric Vassiliadis, the coach of the Caroline Springs George Cross. And boy, are they setting NPL3 alight at the moment. They are blitzing it, and they moved into a promotion spot on the weekend. So we'll be talking to him straight after this very short jingle break. Don't go away. So I'm just going to be very quick.
That was really short. I wasn't ready.
Just to break it up a little bit.
I left the room and got caught out with an empty chair to talk to you.
Yeah, now it's our pleasure to welcome someone who's been on this show very, very regularly in previous years. And he's the coach of the Caroline Springs George Cross team, Eric Vassiliadis. Eric, welcome back to the Football Out West show, and it's great to have you on board. How are you?
Good, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. And it's amazing how quickly time flies, for sure.
Absolutely, mate. Speaking of how time flies, the season has just been going absolutely nuts. And NPL3 Victoria, of course, started that a little bit later behind NPL and NPL2, but we've definitely gone past the halfway mark of the season. Hitting form at the right time, hitting the straps. Let's talk about this last weekend's game. It was a home game against North Sunshine Eagles, who are going to be a bit of a tough side, but goals are plenty.
Yeah, for sure. Look, it's obvious that NPL2 is a pretty tight league, and I think NPL3 is not too far behind it, if I'm being honest. And North Sunshine versus sort of George Cross is a little bit of a local derby for us. So it was a game that I'm pretty sure both clubs were keen to win. It was an incredible spectacle. And for us, it was just another massive opportunity to showcase our football club, the show that our club puts on at home particularly. So it was wonderful for us to be able to get the result in front of what is now, building some really good momentum with our supporters who are making a real difference for us going forward. So it's great.
And Eric, what's been, now that you've had a good chance to sink your teeth into playing in this NPL3 competition, what have been the biggest challenges that you've faced, I suppose, this year coming up from the State League One?
Oh, look, I think it's the unknown. It was our first crack at NPL3. We need to understand the level and sort of what skill set we were required to bring. And then that was from the outset. But as the season has panned out, it's definitely been some disruption for us. We had a period there of 4 weeks where we picked up 1 point for some fairly abnormal circumstances. So it was more around trying to work with the football club and everyone around it to build some resilience and work through that disruption and try and refocus and go again. You can see now that we've picked up some wins, but there was periods of the year where we struggled, and that's normal. I think every club's going to go through a period where there's ups and downs. But yeah, by far the biggest challenge for us, I think, is that there's a lot more depth at this level. Each team's got enough quality in their squad on any given day to really hurt you. So you've got to be on top of your game for the whole game.
As we can see, there's the ladder after the completion of round 14. Some very interesting results this weekend. Ballarat City lost to Melbourne Victory 5-1. Burundara defeated Beau Morris 3-0. Goulburn Valley Suns dropped points as they visited Doveton, a 2-2 draw there. Essendon Royals defeated Geelong 3-1 to make it very, very interesting at the bottom of the ladder. But the big result, Box Hill United 2 defeated Nunawading City 1. And that enabled Caroline Springs to jump into second spot on the competition standings. And we saw some photos there taken by Mark Avellino, a brilliant job that Mark does. And he really does a fantastic job taking photos, not just the Caroline Springs, George Cross, but a lot of NPL clubs and what you're not. But Eric, we saw that now you've become the hunted, isn't it? Melbourne Victory have really sort of slipped away, but now everyone is just trying to stab each other to get to that second spot, that promotion spot. Are you expecting clubs to come at you now in a different way now that you're 3 points clear of in second spot? More aggressively, more physically, nothing like that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's actually the way I read the rules of competition. It makes for a pretty interesting year because it's top two is automatic promotion and third and fourth get a playoff. So I think what that inevitably means is that almost every team is playing for something until round 22. So no, I'm not focusing too much on us being the hunted. The reality is we're sitting second. It's very, very tight. We're still chasing Melbourne Victory, but we're not trying our best to not get too caught up in that, Tonchi. It's genuinely everything we've done so far, good or bad, is all in the past. It's kind of what we do from this point forward. That's the most important focus for us, and we're actually not looking anywhere further than Nunawading this week away from home, which is going to be a massive.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, they're a cracking club and they play some wonderful football. So it'd be interesting to see how we go if we can test ourselves against them.
And you guys are scoring plenty of goals as well, Eric. You got Whiteley on 8 and Bramwell on 7, and again 6 goals against a very clever North Sunshine side on the weekend that you scored. Are you looking to make any acquisitions in the transfer period at this time, or are you happy with the squad that you've got available to you at the moment?
No, I think there's been some movement, and there's going to be some movement. I think the mid-year transfer window gives you an opportunity to reflect and reconcile and understand kind of what you need to do. I I think we're close to securing a couple of players. I think it's been lost on us as well that we lost our number one goalkeeper, John Tapia, 6 weeks ago. So he's going to be out almost for the rest of the year. So Matty Sesso stepped in and done a great job for us. So, yeah, look, our firm belief, Steve, is if we stand still and other teams go forward, then we're going backwards. So, we've put ourselves in a pretty good position as a football club, not just as a team, to try and give this a red-hot crack, and that's what we intend to do.
Eric, what's the situation out there at the moment with transfers or potential transfers, or is there much out there, or are clubs just at the moment clutching, whatever they can get at the moment? Is there much quality on offer?
It's a really, really good question. I think there's definitely enough players for the right clubs. Invariably, players and clubs have got their own mindset and their own perspective when they're looking at a change. I think when you're sitting in the top 2 or 3 positions, you probably don't need many players, right? Because you're doing well by definition. And if you're sitting 3rd or 4th last, then which sort of players want to come to you? So there's a lot of moving dynamics. But as far as I'm concerned, there's plenty of players out there available. Now, the international borders have opened as well. So whether it's an Asian visa or a non-Asian visa,
Yep.
definitely think the pool of players is big. But generally speaking, Tonchi, all those sort of A graders, B graders are all pretty settled, but there are pockets of opportunity. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Definitely. Exciting to see over the coming weeks what names are on the team sheet, Eric. Mark Altona, the president, says that there was a huge crowd there on the weekend. What's the general feel around the whole club at the moment from your point of view as the men's senior coach?
Just watch what you say. The president is watching, so take that into account.
I try to avoid him on Sundays, but no, he's doing an exceptional job, genuinely speaking. So I think he and I and the club sort of sit down, and there's 2 facets to what we're trying to do, Steve. One is we're trying to win games of football, and then I think Mark and his people are trying to work on the product and what the club is doing. It was amazing to see our supporters yesterday. But more amazing for me is that I think the resilience and the support they've shown of the team during periods of disruption have proven that they're there for us. I think they value, a good attitude and a good approach from the football team. But as a product, I think City Vista is really continuing to make some good strides. So, mate, for us as a team and as a coaching staff, to have that opportunity and that honour to play in front of a big club and a big crowd is really, really cool.
Eric, obviously we know George Cross very well, having spent quite a fair bit of time with the club over the last few years in their role as major sponsor of this show. But obviously Mark's been there for a while. You've been there for a while as coach. He's been there as president. Lisa Jurich, the general manager, she's been in that role for several. That to me spells stability. On and off the field spells great for stability. Plus, obviously, the facilities that you mentioned. That must be one of the big lures of why people want to come to George Cross, the stability that the club has at the moment on and off the field, yeah?
Yeah, another really good point. I think that the challenge for us, Tonchi, from the start of the journey was to try and convince people that are traditionally playing at a much higher level to come down and help out and believe in the project. And to be 4 years into that now and to actually understand the importance of stability, the importance of energy, the importance of being at the very embryonic stage of a growth phase, and to be able to play a part in that project is really cool. We've been part of this show for a while, so it's easy to talk, but I think over time the club has tried its absolute best to deliver on its promises and to deliver on its ambitions. And for me, as still a young coach at that club, I still think there's a lot of energy left, and they definitely haven't. They definitely haven't. They haven't plateaued. They've still got a lot of growth to come.
Yeah, it's an ominous warning for the rest of the NPL2 Victoria competition. Let's turn our attention to this weekend's game. As you said, Nunawading City, and I'll bring that ladder up again. A big game. Obviously, you can really distance yourself away from third place Nunawading City. Expecting a big contingent of Georgie fans to travel to Marnie's Reserve.
I think so. I think we've got a really good show of support home and away now. So they've got belief in the team. But from I can tell you from a coach's perspective, I try my absolute best not to look at the ladder. Like I said to you, we've played 14 games. They're all in the past. It's a blank page. We've got a massive challenge to go down to Nunawading. They play in a certain way, and we're going to have to bring our best. But yeah, I do think our supporters will turn up, and all I hope is that our boys continually bring the right mindset and that aggressive mentality, and just give it our best and see how we go.
All right, Eric. Well, we wish you all the best of luck in the match against Nunawading this coming weekend, and looking forward to seeing how the team performs over the rest of the season, and wishing you the best of luck in the race for promotion out of NPL3 and into NPL2. Just consecutive promotions on the table, perhaps, and a really good spell of football coming out of Caroline Springs at the moment. And congratulations to you and everyone at the club, and thanks again for your time tonight.
Thank you, guys. Always appreciate it.
Good on you, Eric. Thanks very much. Eric Vassiliadis, and I detected a little bit of a smile on Eric's face. He seems to be a lot more relaxed, and things are going really, really well. But it's great to see. Look, we talk about that off-field stability. President Sultana there for several years. Eric Vassiliadis, the coach as well. And to jump from State 1 to NPL3 this year, and they're doing a really, really good job, and look like they'll definitely be in contention for promotion to NPL2 next year as well, if things continue this way. It's just brilliant to see one of, arguably, potentially, one of Melbourne's biggest clubs back in where they belong in NPL Victoria competition, along with Preston and the like. So it's great to see.
That's right. And as Mark mentions in the comments as well, there was a flurry of red cards last time these sides met. It was absolute madness. I remember I was doing a game with Craig, and he informed me that Morgan Filer had been sent off, and he wasn't the only one. So that was a day that I found difficult to find words to describe, but I'm sure the players from both sets of teams will be remembering that particular occasion in the lead up to this particular game on the weekend. Yeah,
well, we talk about George Cross getting promoted from State League 1 last year. One of the most difficult divisions to get out of, because everyone is clamouring to get out of State League 1 and to work their way into the NPL Victoria family. We'll next be talking to our final guest of the night, and he's the Altona City coach, Michael Calandrella. Altona City came up against Sydenham Park, first versus second, yesterday in the State League 1 match of the day. We'll find out how that all went and how that all transpired. But, speaking of State League 1, before we take a quick break, tomorrow, the Game of Two Halves podcast, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show, we'll have the president, or the outgoing president of Corio Soccer Club, joining us, Mario Gregorio. He tendered his resignation to the State League 1 club during the week, and we'll find out all about what's behind the scenes and the state of affairs in the with football in the Geelong region tomorrow night. But in the meantime, after this very short break, we'll be talking to the Altona City coach, Michael Calandrella. He'll be joining us to talk about all things State League 1 football. So, folks, don't go away. We'll be right back with the Football Out West show. Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League 1 outfit, Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. And Steve, it's time for our next guest.
It is indeed, Tonchin. Waiting in the green room, we've got the coach of the league-leading State League 1 Northwest side, Altona City, and it is Mick Calandrella. Mick, thanks for joining us tonight. And how do we find you today?
Yeah, and not bad. Thanks for having me on, gents. Yeah, really good game yesterday. Playing Sydenham, obviously quality side, quality all over the park, and yeah, ended up 1-1 result, but it was a great game.
Mick, thanks for joining us and welcome back to the show. We've had you on the show before. Was it a case of 1 point gained against Sydenham or 2 points lost?
Yeah, I think a couple of ways to look at it, Tonch. I think
Yep.
in the end, I think a draw was probably a fair result. We started a little bit tentatively. We were a little bit reserved in the first half, and we conceded a goal early. And against a quality side like Sydenham, it's probably, it's not the best start to get it off to, but we're good enough to get one back pretty quickly. I think we equalised about 10 or so minutes later, and then, like I said, we were a little reserved in that first half, probably due to the quality of the opposition. And just at half time, I told the boys, come out, play with the courage that we normally play with. We adjusted a few things that I wasn't happy with, and we came out really strong in the second half, created a really good couple of chances that we probably should have scored. Had another one late in the game. Sydenham, they had a lot of corners, set pieces, looked like their danger. But at the end, I'd say, disappointed we didn't get the win. I'm sure Loza would feel the same on his end. So, probably a fair result. But, as far as my boys go, they left everything on the pitch. That's what we asked for. And as far as that goes, I'm very proud of them.
And overall, Mick, what was the most pleasing aspect of the result in what would have been a really hard-fought game of those two teams at the top of the table?
Yeah, I think the most pleasing thing, Steve, was that conceding early, and normally the last couple of times we played Sydenham, that's happened, and we haven't been able to come back from that. So to get a goal back, within 10 minutes, it was very pleasing, and shows that we're probably a bit further on than we were earlier in the year. So I was really pleased with the boys. The attitude was A1 as usual, and against, like I said, they're a quality side. So to walk away for a point, it's disappointing, but to get a point against a quality side, you can't be too disappointed.
Yeah. Now let's take a look at the ladder and go through the results. There was a big result in round 14 round 13 of the State League 1 competition. Now, Upfield and Yarraville Glory 2-2. Whittlesea Rangers defeated FC Strathmore 3-0. Corio bounced back to winning form. They've had a change of coach there. 4-1 over Brimbank Stallions, and they've had a little bit of upheaval off the field in recent weeks. Keilor Park and Banyule City, the battle of the cellar dwellers, a 1-1 draw there. I don't know if that helps either of the teams. And then obviously we talked about Altona City and Sydenham Park. But the big result, Whittlesea United defeated Westgate 1-0. Mick, does that result surprise you, or Whittlesea United, are they starting to really find their form at the right time?
Yeah, look, not surprised. Whittlesea's had a very, very good 4 or 5 weeks, and we played them not too long ago, and that's a very difficult place to play. They're very strong at home, and they're a good side. Andy's got them buzzing at the moment. So, I think that game could have went anyway, because Westgate's another very, very good side who plays some good football. So I'd probably say the home ground advantage helped Whittlesea. And, I'm not surprised that they got the points, because they're a difficult team to play against.
And Mick, just on the squad, your boys in training this time of year, the days are very short. The winter is really here. We've got to that middle point of the season where there's tired legs, a bit of fatigue. How do you keep the squad fresh and feeling motivated this time of year?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit easier because we're doing well at the moment, Steve. So, there's always a buzz at training. I've pushed them hard for the last, good 10 weeks. So the last couple of weeks, we actually lightened the load a little bit. I could see some of the boys were sore. So we're just trying to manage it best we can. We've been blessed with injuries so far. We've had very minimal injuries. So, it's cold, but they want to be there. They want to keep pushing towards the next game. So, it hasn't been a problem, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, off the field, there's some big things happening there at Kim Reserve. There's a major reconstruction or renovation happening. Tell us a little bit about it. There's a couple of photos there of the club rooms, but there's is this maybe gearing up for a real big serious assault on NPL football?
Yeah, look, this has been in the works for quite a long time. You know, the past committees and also present committee have been working on this, and it's long overdue. Like our club room, it's a great little club room with a lot of history, but it is tired. Our grounds are tired. Our lighting, needs upgrading. So the club wants to be. I think the plan of the club is that they want to be in the NPL system within the next 2 to 3 years. So yeah, this is definitely going to help. We're going to have a quality facility. Our ground's going to be resurfaced. Our lights going to be upgraded. So yeah, long time planning, and there's a big buzz around the club. Next week is our last game at home. So we're out of there after next week, and
Wow.
be a sad time, but a great time as well.
Where will you be
coming
playing?
time, will you play your games reversed, or will you use someone else's ground for some home games?
Yeah, so after next week, we've only got 2 home game remaining, and our good friends at Yarraville have helped us out. So they're going to allow us to use their facility for our home games. They've got a great pitch there and a great facility. So
Excellent pitch,
they've really done us a favour.
Steve knows all about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good news. That's great to see. And there's also at the moment an internal club fundraiser to try and raise some money for, and we'll bring that graphic up as well. So if anyone is interested, go on GoFundMe.com, contribute to Altona City. The club is hoping to raise some funds to improve the ground lighting on all the 3 pitches, and hopefully also include install a LAD scoreboard and construct a sealed car park. So, it's going to be awesome once it's all done and dusted. That's for sure. But a big shout out. Can I just do a big shout out to the Altona City under-12 Kangas? They earlier today defeated the all-conquering Altona North team, who have not lost a single game. And today they won, I think it was 3-2 or something like that. So big shout out to the Altona City and coaches there of the under-12 Kangas. And the reason I know, because I coach the North Geelong under-12 boys, and we're coming up to Altona City next Sunday. So I'm really looking forward to that.
We'll make sure we have a drink.
Yeah, we will. All right. Steve, was there any questions you had for Mick?
So this coming weekend, Mick, you've got that, is that last home game or the second last home game against Upfield at Kim Reserve? It's a 6 o'clock game. How do you see Upfield at the moment, and what's your message to the Altona City family towards getting down and supporting you on the night?
Yeah, look, Upfield's another team that's doing really well. Aussie's got a good mix down there, and he's a coach that likes his team to play football. So I think it's going to be a really enjoyable game. They're a good side, so we're expecting another tough game, as is every game in this league. We've got we actually had a function last night, sponsors function last night, and we had a huge crowd there. And next week we sort of got a demolition party, so it would be great for everyone to come down and sort of enjoy the last game at the old facility. So we're hoping everyone comes down to support the boys, and hopefully we can get a result at our last home game before the redevelopment.
Yeah. Now, can I ask?
I've always said demolition parties are the best kind of parties.
Is it kind of like a BYO sledgehammer or something like that, or dynamite or whatever? What does a demolition
that
party?
complies with OH&S stands these days, but maybe.
I think it'll be more than the facility that'll be getting demolished next week.
There will be some of the personnel there as well. We've got some big games coming up in around round 14 of the State League One. Whittlesea United at home to Banyule City. That's on Friday night. Yarraville taking on Whittlesea Rangers also on Friday night at Mackay Reserve. Brimbank Stallions at home to FC Strathmore. Keilor Park at Sydenham, taking on Sydenham Park, which we mentioned. Altona City against Upfield at Kim Reserve. That should be a huge game. But a big grudge match in the making. Westgate travel to Hume Reserve to take on Karaya. and I've got it on good authority that Karaya's number one striker, Vedran Stojanovic, who signed for Westgate in recent weeks, he'll be coming back to the place where he was doing very, very well early in the season. So that should be an interesting game at Hume Reserve as well. But, mate, all the very best. Actually, that game's not at Hume Reserve. That's at Oriana Park. Mick, all the very best for not just the rest of the season, but, look, some exciting times at Hume Reserve and what is involved for the club over the coming months, years even.
Thanks very much, guys, and thanks for having me on again.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks for coming back on again, Mick, and all the best.
And we'll have a coffee next Sunday morning. We won't have any. That is if there's still people standing after the demolition party. Good on you.